problem gambling is thought to be a relatively small problem. Less than 1% of the adult population is thought to be a problem gambler. However, nobody really knows what it means to be a problem gambler. So my research has really been about trying to evaluate what are the costs to the individual themselves of being a problem gambler. The way we do this is we ask about people's well-being, and we compare the well-being of individuals who are problem gamblers with those who are not. We find a big difference in the level of well-being associated with being a problem gambler. We try and turn this into a money measure by looking at how well-being varies with income. When we do that, we estimate that the costs of being a problem gambler are around £90,000 a year per person, per problem gambler. When we multiply that by the number of problem gamblers, which is about 1/3 that's the adult population of Sheffield, so it's a big number, we get an overall loss in well-being for the country as a whole of around £30 billion. That's 2% of GNP. That's a lot more than we spend on Coca-Cola, for example. The research goes on and tries to think about what's the transmission mechanism for this relationship between well-being and problem gambling. What is it about problem gamblers that causes them to have low well-being? The natural suspect is gambling expenditure. So our data set conveniently has information about gambling expenditure in it. We know that the National Lottery spending is quite accurately recorded. We find that Lotto itself is not a suspect. Lotto is not guilty. Perhaps not surprisingly, it's a rather soft form of gambling, whereas scratch cards do seem to be responsible for about 10% of the loss in well-being. We'd like to say more. In particular, we're interested in FOBTs, fixed odds betting terminals. These are thought to be the crack cocaine of problem gambling. Unfortunately, but perhaps not surprisingly, our data on how much people spend on FOBTs is pretty ropey. So our estimates are close to zero, but are biased to be close to zero.